Hello everyone, Miss Gretchen with Rubies of Moonstones. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you like it here and will consider subscribing. And if you are returning, welcome back and thank you so much for continuing to support my channel. I really do greatly appreciate each and every one of you. So today I am talking about how to work on a large canvas and how to incorporate some tips and tricks into whatever size workspace you have available to you. I originally started working in a really small workspace and I have since increased it as I have gotten more into diamond painting, but initially my workspace was pretty small. So as you can see, this is Astronomer. This is currently my Everest, my difficult piece that I am trying to complete. It is 105 centimeters by 70 centimeters, or 41.3 by 27.6 inches, and Miles Pinckney is the artist. So this is a massive canvas. I believe there's 103,000 drills on this canvas, something like that. Over 100,000 drills, definitely. So a few tips that I have for you. One is before you get started and you kit up and you remove all those stickers, take a copy of your sticker sheet. Then regardless of where you are at working on your canvas, you can easily reference this sticker sheet. And I'm going to talk about this again in a little bit. You can always also look at your labels as they are on your jars, but I find it easier to just quickly scan the symbols here versus scanning all of my jars. And then that way, if I'm here in the middle and I can't really see either legend, I have something to look at. Now, when I first started diamond painting, I got an A3 light board, and this is an A3 light board. It also came with a small easel that I was using, and so I was only working on small pieces that fit this light board. And when I got my first piece that was too big for the light board, I didn't really know what to do and how to make it work. So you can get larger light boards, but maybe that doesn't work for your space. I think A1 is the largest size light board that I have seen, but if you're in a cramped space, you might not be able to fit something even of this size. You might have a smaller light board or no light board at all. So depending on the size of the canvas that you're working on, some of these things may work for you and some of them may not. We shall see. One of the other things that I struggled with when I first started working on larger canvases is I did not want to turn them. I was very hesitant to turn. I wanted to work on my diamond paintings going across the top and working my way down. I did not want to turn it from side to side. I was worried about getting confused by the symbols and all of that. I have since grown over that fear and am more willing to turn my canvas, and since this one is shorter in width than length, it fits my table better to turn it and work on the side and go down the sides. Well, then all of my symbols are sideways, and that is when it can come in handy to have this sheet. Then you can turn it sideways so that your symbols match, and it might help you be able to figure out what symbol you're looking for better or easier. And you can even do that if you decide to turn your canvas upside down. You can turn your sheet upside down. You can also turn all of your jars or containers, whatever you were using, upside down to match the symbols that way. I think that you would also be surprised at how quickly your eye adjusts and knows what symbol you are working on or looking for, regardless of if you are looking at it sideways, backwards, upside down, in between. So trust your brain and your eyes a bit. So then the next thing is, how do you make this manageable? Because you can't really have the entire thing unrolled and laid out unless you are working on your dining room table and can just have the entire thing laid out flat. So that is where it comes in handy to be able to roll them. Now you can put something inside when you roll the canvas. I do. It just kind of is a bit sturdier. This is a pipe liner. There's lots of different kinds. Some people use styrofoam cores. Some people use pool noodles, whatever you have that is just kind of small and round. And then you put it inside of your canvas. And on the uncompleted side, you just roll it in. so that, you know, the glue is in kind of like how it came in your package. And so you roll it up to be as small as you want it to be for whatever section you want it to be that you're working on. And then I prefer, if I have them, to use these little quilt clips, I think that they're called. And so they're just nice little clippies that you can then clip onto the end of your canvas. And it then holds the roll that you just did in place so that it doesn't come unrolled. Now I am also, since I'm working on my drafting table now, I got these. There's actually two of them, one for each side of the drafting table, and it has this little screw. I believe it came from Bella Art Designs. And so this goes on either end, you screw it in so that it fits your drafting table, and then you can put the rolled up section here. If you're not working on a drafting table though, then you can put your rolled up section just in your lap or underneath your easel or whatever works best for you. So we've been working on it. It's been rolled up nice, and you don't have the space maybe to work on it sideways. So then what you could do is work on the bottom half and then turn it upside down and work on the top half, or vice versa, work on the top half and then turn it and work on the bottom half. And then once you have a section completed, you would unroll however much you want to be in your next section and use your little clippies. But then you would take your pipe liner, and on your completed section, on the completed side, you would roll with your diamonds out. And then again, clippy the end to hold it in place. So now you kind of have a double scroll going on, and then you can work again. You can do this section, and then you can do this section. Now, if you have a larger workspace, like I currently do, you don't need to roll up the top or the completed section, and you can let that part just start to hang off of your table as it gets completed and have it just kind of keep moving up your table if you have something that is that wide. But if you don't, then you can make the double scroll so that it fits, and that way it fits your table area, and that is the entire point, right? So those are my tips on how to make it more manageable for your work area. And then you can also use your light board, and you can move it up and down with your canvas so that it's wherever you need it to be, and you're working across your light pad as you go. So now I am going to talk about how to work on a large canvas, how to divide it out into sections, and also I'm going to talk about working in heavy confetti areas, because a lot of these large paintings have some heavy confetti. So first, what I want to do is talk about my workstation. And so this is something that I got at Hobby Lobby, and it already has some clips on the side. It is wider than it is tall, so I have decided to work on it this way so that I sit here and the top of my design is up in this area. But it does have these clips on it, so if you wanted to use the clips to attach your canvas with, you could use these clips. I, however, opted not to, and instead I laid down Velcro in a few different lines so that depending on the size of my canvas, I could always have Velcro to clip them to. So see, I also have these heavy duty clips, and I put Velcro on the back. So then that way when I was working on my easel, I could have them clipped here and just have this much showing, and that way my arm wasn't having to go up quite so high. Now that I have a drafting table, I still do use the clips, but I tend to start them up a bit higher, and then that way it still holds my canvas in place and I don't have to worry about it falling down into my lap. I also recently added some Velcro to the back of my light pad so that when I have my table at an incline, I can have this up higher and it's not going to roll down the table. And then this way too, I can have it centered depending on which side of the canvas I'm working on, or if I want to have it more over here or over here, I can move it around as well and it's going to stay in place. And then again, I need to glue this one down. I can move my clips up and down depending on where I want them to be. Sometimes I have them holding it to the side over here. It just depends on the canvas. So something really pretty cheap that I did to make my area work for me. All right, so now we are going to be starting on our canvas and we need to divide it out into sections, right? Just to make it a bit easier. That at least is better for me when working on something that is this confetti heavy. It's easier for me to have this divided out into sections than to just peel back the cover and try and work, because then I start color chasing and I don't really know where to stop and it makes it harder for me. I think that it works fine for some people, but for me, it's easier to just focus on one square at a time. When I do have pieces that have a lot more color blocking to them, I might pull back the plastic covering a bit more, but confetti heavy, and when I was first starting to work on large canvases, sectioning it out is what worked best for me. A lot of people will talk about release papers, and that's a good way to divide out your sections. And so I have some here. These are double-sided release papers and just plain white, about a 3x6 maybe, or 3x5. When I use them, what I do is I pull back my plastic covering, and then I take my release paper and I find whatever line I want to use. Sometimes I try and see what's a good section or how far I want it to be. Okay, I want my first row to be about that big, so maybe I will have this one cover these black dots. And when I am first laying down this row, which is technically the second row in, I am very careful that my release paper lines up. And so I lay these, and you want them to overlap. Okay, so here's my first row, and hopefully you can see that it is going across so that I will have the exact same row as my last row. Now when I am laying my next row, I don't have to be quite as careful. You just want to make sure that it of course covers the entire section. And then I am just going to kind of overlap them. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not as worried about how perfect this row is in a second. See, I even have a little bit of an extra space there. But this is going to be the first corner that I'm going to work on. So when it comes time to work on this corner, I peel up this release paper, and you know what? That square is maybe a little bit too small for me. So I want to do something bigger, and I see kind of a circle here. So I'm going to lay down my release paper along this line, and I am just going to focus on that section. And then that way, my eye is only focused on this section and these colors, and I'm not so overwhelmed with everything else, and I just do one section at a time. Now maybe I have a lot more time to myself this day and I want to do a bigger square. Well, then I can pick up another one and say, you know what, I'm going to go all the way over here today, and then that way I can lay more of the few colors that are more repetitive in there. There's a decent amount of black, for example, so I could lay more black in there. It just is up to you and how much you want to work on that day. You can also make it into a much smaller section, whatever you are comfortable with and whatever you want to work on that day. And these release papers are very safe for your glue and your canvas. You do want to make sure that it is completely flattened out on your glue so that no glue is exposed. But so long as each one is flat against the glue, you are fine. And then if you don't happen to get your section done, you can put your release paper back over it, even though there may be some diamonds there, And then you can put, you can use one of your cover minders to help hold your release paper in place. And or you can pull your cover back over if you haven't cut that plastic covering off. Now, I currently am not using release papers. I did like this method, but as they have come out with that perforated cover, I personally like it. And when the perforated cover is not an option, I have been preferring to make my own sections using washi tape. So I'm going to flip this around and show you how I do that. So I want to start with you zoomed out a little bit. As you can see, I have already laid some washi tape here. So I have laid the washi tape going all the way across the bottom. I just kind of picked a distance that I wanted to work on, and I chose a relatively large section. I don't know why. I wanted to make sure this entire thing was included. I'm starting to get into the back of his robe. I really don't know. I should have probably made it a little bit smaller, but I didn't, so I'm going with it. And so how you do this is you take your washi tape, you find what line you want to use, and you lay it down, and then you stretch out your tape and go all the way across your painting so that it is that size. Now, you do not have to have it be in a perfectly straight row. If you want, you can say, you know what, I'm going to do this, but I want that whole thing to be in there. So I am going to do this section, and then I want this one to be a little bit deeper. So I'm going to have this line go here so that it includes that entire lamp, and then have this section go here. And so you can have different sized squares. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's one of the things that I like about washi tape is you can have your squares be whatever size that you want. It's up to you, and it can vary so that you can include an entire section on your canvas in one area, and it can include something entirely different in another area. I generally do try and follow the same line so that it just keeps the plastic a little nicer when it follows a symmetrical line, but you don't have to, and especially if you are putting a lot of focus on it. So those are the two main ways that I divide up a canvas. I have done another video on how to use the perforated canvas cover. So if you are someone who has not used the perforated canvas or are struggling with that, I suggest you check out that video. I'll try and link it in the description box. So I will not go over how to work on the perforated canvas cover here. You can check out that video. But now I'm going to talk to you about confetti and get you zoomed into this section. Okay, so if we just look at this corner alone, there is a lot of design in here, a lot of confetti, but that is what makes pieces like this so cool. And I know some people really don't like confetti, and I'm not a huge fan of it either. I like things that have a really good mix of it. So I started by actually making my section this big, and then was like, wait a minute, that's too much for me. So I put a divider line down the center and just did this small patch here. And it took me quite a while to do just this section because of how many color changes there were, but it looks so pretty now. And then now this is my next section to do. It's also pretty confetti heavy, but it's starting to get a little bit less so. And then as you work up the canvas, you can see that there's a few color blocked sections, like here's all this black, here's all the letter C's and things like that. But we are going to focus on this confetti heavy area. I want to make sure you can see everything that I am doing, and I am going to turn on my light pad now. And working with squares and working with such dark symbols, I really do need my light pad. Okay, so now you can see this section in a lot more detail. The first thing I need to do is I need to cut my cover, and I'm just going to use a ceramic blade. I have heard some people complain about the fact that they have cut through their canvas with the ceramic blades. I have not. That doesn't mean that it will not happen someday, but I just try to be extra careful and not push too hard so that I'm only going through the plastic. You can also just use some scissors, but I like the precision that this blade gives me. So I am going to just run the blade down right next to where my washi tape is. I have to push a little bit harder to get through the washi tape area. And then I just go down that section. Now I pick up the plastic, which can sometimes be a bit difficult depending on if you have any beads underneath it or not. Now that I have it, I'm going to see if I cut through it, and I did, so that it tore there. And now I'm going to tear towards my washi to try and make sure that it actually follows that line. And then I'm going to just fold this down at the bottom so that then if I don't get this section completed, I can just fold it back up and cover my glue. So then when working on a confetti heavy area, what stands out to me as the most predominant shade or color or symbol may be different than what stands out to you. Usually to me, what stands out the most is the black dot with the white circle, which is usually black. And so I almost always get the black first. Now to you, the red symbols might stand out the most, but I always just get those black ones first. So that's what I'm going to do. And so I just pick one symbol at a time, whatever is standing out the most to me in that moment, and I'm going to get all of those colors. So we'll do the black ones, and then I'll be right back. So I have the black done now, and now I need to pick out what is the next, what stands out most to me, or maybe what is the most predominant color. There are a few colors on this canvas that I am really struggling with, and so I kind of like to get those out of the way first. I also see I just missed a black one there. Now, one of the reasons I really like using glue dots in the end of my pen is because then I can just dip into my container and pull out one diamond and put it down in the spot that I left out. It's just really easy to get that one extra piece that I missed out. So like I said, to me, there are a few colors on this canvas that are just really challenging, and one of them is this tent symbol. It's number 3371, a dark brown, and it is very, very trashy. So I think that I am going to get this one out of the way next. That's how I am going to choose what's next to me. To you, it might be different. You might want to do all of these red ones first because they stand out the most, and then follow in with the gold, or maybe the gold stands out the most. Just pick what color stands out the most to you, and then pick out the next color that stands out most to you until you get them all completed. The way that works best for me might not be the way that works best for you. So that's where everybody does it differently. But if you just go one color at a time, what stands out most to you, eventually you will get it all done. This kit also came with a DP with Sparklers Enhancement Kit, so there are some special drills in addition to the regularly charted ABs that are in here, and those are sometimes nice to place last. I didn't do that in my last section just because they don't necessarily always fit together the greatest. It kind of depends on the color in the kit, but so yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this tent color next, and then we'll see what we want to do from there. Okay, so as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that part of what I like to do is get some of the duller colors out of the way first. So I am doing the blacks and browns, but they're also a bit more predominant. So the next color that I'm going to do is this double arc, which is number 938. So next I've decided to do another least favorite color, which is this, I call it the double tent over here. Zoom in a little bit more. This symbol right here, this double tent, it's number 823. I also have some significant problems with it. I've already pulled out all of the bad drills, but we'll do that color next. And there's quite a bit of it too. To me, this one's standing out more than the C, but the C is very close. So yeah, my eye is focusing in on all of the dark colors first, so that's why I did those couple of browns. Now I'm doing these dark blues, and then I'll probably come in and fill in these other colors starting with the check mark. We'll see. So now we are moving on to my third least favorite color of this kit, most troublesome, which is the C symbol, which is number 939. And while I was working on this last section, it also reminded me that what I also tend to do that I have found to be helpful is that I will keep out the other bottle or baggie or whatever it is that you're using to kit up. I will keep out the last color that I used and just kind of have it set to the side so that I don't have to go searching back through my pile or my container system for it, so that if I happen to see one of those colors, one of those spots as I'm scanning for my new color, then that bottle is readily available for me to grab and place those missing drills down before moving on. Because chances are you're going to notice that you missed a couple of that last color now, like when you're going over the very, very next color versus 4 or 5 colors later. So that's why I usually keep out the last color or two sometimes to make sure that I did get all of them in there. So, all right, let's go ahead and get the C's laid down. I'm sure you've gotten the point by now, but I'll go ahead and keep going and see how much of this I can get done before I have to stop. So next I'm going to be doing the double dots here, and they actually happen to be a special drill by DP with Sparklers. They are a square crystal. It's square crystal 820, and it's actually it's replacing number 336. So sometimes they come up with similar colors that match, but they are actually different DMC colors. So their crystals might be a slightly different shade, is kind of how I'm thinking that they come up with that. But so these crystals are going to be going in the double dot section. Sometimes these are of awkward shapes and sizes that they don't fit very well, so I've already pulled out quite a few that had extra tabs or were really odd shapes. And I'm just going to try and stick to these lines in the middle that are pretty good. Alright, so now before I move on to different colors, I've done those really dark browns, and now I've kind of done some of the blues, and so it makes sense to me to finish the blues. They're standing out to me. So I've gone ahead and pulled all of them that I see. So I call this one the pregnant stick, lowercase n, the number 9, and then the lowercase a. So I went ahead and grabbed all 4 of those because there's not very many, and I will put them in really quick, and then we will move on to another color. That reminds me that some people who do really confetti heavy pieces a lot, instead of having out 4 bottles that you have to pour and shake out and lay and put back in the bottles and put back away, they have these towers, and they have a tray that they keep each color in, so they can just pull the trays out and they already have all of the colors in them, and then they can put the trays back when they're done. I do not have the space to have a tower of trays in my house or at my workstation, And so far, this system is working okay for me, but that is another possibility depending on the size of your workstation that you could possibly do. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do these 4 colors of blue, and then we'll see where we go from there. So as we are getting into having a lot more color changes, I have grabbed a whole bunch of colors. I went ahead and pulled them because I know that I'm going to come across them. So I've got the check mark that I'm probably going to do first. So I'm going to put them in order on the top of my workstation. And then the triple dot, it stands out to me, so I'm going to put that at the top. The A and the 7 are pretty equal, so I'm putting them up there as well. I also was spying some of these dashes. The triangles, which is another special drill. It's this metallic gold color, which is really actually a pretty color. And these O's. So, in an effort to avoid stopping and talking, I thought I would show you that that's what I'm going to do next. And so these are a lot of the dark brown and then orangish, brownish areas that I am hunting for now. Okay, so we're down to our final 2 colors. It's something that I just kind of do for fun. I don't really need to do it in a confetti heavy area, and I don't always, but I just have left number 2 and 3 for the end because they are ABs and just something that I do for fun. Something you may or may not have noticed as I worked through, I know I kind of talked about this before, but every once in a while when I found a spot that just had 3, 4, 5 pieces, I just worked out of the jars with those glue dots, which is really handy, especially when I came across this spot. Like there was only 1 8 in this spot. There was a couple, there were only 2 star symbols, and so it's just a lot easier to just dab a couple out with the glue dot. However, if you don't have a glue dot, something else that you can do is just, if you have these types of containers or something similar, just drop a few into the cup, and then that way you can dab out the couple that you have, and then you can just put the container back on. Another reason that I do like these containers, with Elizabeth Ward style containers, those are pretty easy to have a nice flat bottom that you can just maybe find, be able to push your pen all the way down into the bottom of the container to pick one up. So it just depends on the type of container you have. But to me, it helps save time to just dip my pen into the container or use the cap like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get this confetti heavy area finished, and then we'll turn off the light pad and see what it looks like. All right, that finishes that section. I still have this flap here. I did have to stop for a little bit last night, so I was able to pull this up and have it go back over the glue just to protect it while I wasn't working. And then now that I am done, I am just going to cut it off and throw it away. And let's turn off the light pad. So there is that whole section. It's always a good idea to kind of rub your hand over these squares to make sure that none of them are kind of slightly angled in there. And then when you're done, you can use that roller over them, or you can roll over each section, of course. Anyway, so yeah, that is the confetti heavy section done. I think that this is a really fun part of this painting. Now I will section off what I want to do next. Got some washi tape here, and over here there is a decent amount of color blocking in the sky, but I think, so here are a couple of birds you can kind of see the outline of. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down my line here, and I just want to make sure it's really lined up against the same line of squares going all the way down. And I'm going to work on this section next because there are larger chunks of the same color in this one. There's a little bit of confetti maybe in this area, but we're getting into a little bit more. These next couple sections should be kind of fast, and then when I get to the top of this row, it'll be more confetti heavy, but yeah, so yay, I love this part. Let me know, is there anything that you do different that you would suggest to people who are trying to figure out how to work on a large canvas in a small space, or just how to work on their first large canvas in general? Anything that I left out that you think is a really good idea, please let me know in the comment section. Also, any ideas that you have that I didn't share for working with confetti, please let me know those as well. This is what I currently know and I currently do, and it works for me right now, but there's a lot of different ways, and I am always interested in learning new ones to see what works for other people and see if I can incorporate that into what I do. So if there's anything different or you feel like I left anything out, please put it in the comment section. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. If you would like to see more content as I create it, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.